Hey everyone, it's Tico here, and today's tarot tutorial is going to be covering what's called Elemental Dignities. And I have a chart down here. I don't have it memorized. I don't think there's really any way to memorize all these combinations, so you might just want to keep that and refer to that. That's in the PDF guide. But I'll do some examples when we get through. So elemental dignities and triads, right? This was a method of reading cards that was developed by Oswald Wirth of the Golden Dawn, and it plays off of using the elemental alchemical relationships that we talked about in the last tarot tutorial. So if you need a refresher on that, feel free to go back and check that out at any time. Basically, so what a triad is was a way of reading cards where he would put down, or 3 cards would be put down, not necessarily in a spread form. There wasn't really a spread associated to this, so it wasn't like a past, present, future. You just put down 3 cards, and the center card was the answer, the information that you'd be reading. That was the main focus. And then the elements and the other 2 cards on each side would add more details to what we were reading on that center card. So for instance, this is something I really like to use when I'm doing, let's say, a 3-card spread, because you can do a past, present, future, or a subconscious, conscious, superconscious, or anything along those lines, and also simultaneously look at it as a triad separately, and then combine, kind of layer those bits of information. Lots of reading tarot is layering these correspondence systems, right? That's why we're going over all this. So, based off of kind of and I just have some cards out here for an example that I'm going to use. So based off the alchemical elemental relationships, I'm just going to kind of read through, starting at the top of this packet here, looking at the elemental dignities when in a triad, right? So a card, so this would be in the middle, right? Cards are very strong when the suits or elements are the same. They can either increase the good or ill in each card depending on the card's meaning. So if there was a card that was, like, let's say, more challenging or this or that, and there's other cards of that same suit exactly, so like 1 sword, 2 swords, 3 swords, those are all going to amplify each other, right? 2 swords are going to amplify each other. Let's say the main card is 6 of Wands, the fire. It's a very positive card, right? If there's another fire card to the side there flanking it, that's going to amplify it. So anything of the same two elements is going to amplify that middle card, right? When the suits or elements are both masculine active or feminine passive, they are friendly to each other. So this kind of gets in a little bit of astrology. I didn't really cover that yesterday when we were looking at the elemental relationships, right? But fire and air, those 2 ones that are hot, those were considered active, which are, yang energy. And then the receptive, water and earth, is yin energy. That's the same when we're going to be looking at the astrological signs of fire, water, air, and earth. So the same way, so like, right, if you have a fire and air card together, they're going to be friendly to each other. They increase the power and strength of each other, but whether this is good or bad depends on the specific cards. Okay, so they're not very strong, like a fire and a fire, but like, let's say you had, in the middle, a fire card, wands, and then you had air card, swords to the side. This is going to be friendly, increase this, right? So not the same as being super strong, fire and fire, right? But it's definitely, there's going to be an increase there, okay? That would be the same with an earth card and a water card, the cups, right? When the suits and elements complement each other, they are balancing. So this is in those ones where we looked at, they're balancing or kind of neutralize each other out. That's the fire and the earth, the air and the water. They might be mildly irritate each other, but they mildly support each other, right? So if there's a fire and an earth card together, those are neutral. And then the air, an air and a water card together, that's going to do that same thing, right? That's going to they're going to kind of neutralize each other out. And when the cards are contrary elements, they tend to weaken each other greatly and cancel out, neutralize/cancel out their force. This is sometimes what he would call, if a card showed up, ill-dignified. So fire and water and air and earth. So let's say, for instance, you had a fire card and 2 water cards. Well, we'll go through the triads first. Maybe that's too much. Fire card and a water card together. They're going to cancel each other out. This is going to make, if this was the main card in the middle and the water is flanking to the side, this would make this ill-dignified. Okay? It's really going to weaken the effect. And so, just as an example then of how as a reader you might apply some of this information, right? So the 2 of Wands, let's say, choices and enterprise, right? But the 7 of Cups are all these different options, or maybe not knowing exactly what we want emotionally. You could even interpret this in, right, as the water here is going to cancel this fire out. You could even say, like, there's, by having your desires all over the place, you're literally unable to make that choice to, like, move forward in this project. Okay, so there's an example of that, right? Fire and water will cancel each other out or have a negative effect. Earth and air is going to be the same thing. If the earth pentacle was in the middle, this is going to make it ill-dignified or have that effect. Vice versa, if the air was in the middle and this is on the side, that's going to make it ill-dignified and have that effect. Okay. So hopefully that makes sense to you. That's all based off of the elemental relationships that we went over in the last tarot video, or the last tarot tutorial. So now we're going to look through how you would use this when doing triads, right? So we really want to have your center card, and then there's going to be 2 cards flanking a triad, 3 cards, right? So if you look, I'm just going to say here, so they're very strong. I broke these down. Like I said, save this page as a reference guide for strong active side for the elements and the strong passive elements. We just call them passive. Active, again, fire and air. Passive, water and earth, okay? So that's going to be all the way through here on the reference. So if you wanted to pull 3 cards, you could find where these cards are and then see what the effects are on the middle one. But I'm just going to kind of run through some examples, let's say. So like a very strong active would be, let's say now, we pulled 3 cards and all came out as fire. Again, the meaning, the main meat of the information, the focus is on the center card when we're doing triads always, right? I still kind of use that when I do the, any 3-card spread, or a past, present, future, right? Or even in the Celtic Cross, there's 3 cards. You can use this with any spreads, how these, 3 cards are interacting, or multiple cards are interacting in a row. You get the idea, you can run with it. But the Golden Dawn specifically used the 3-card triad. So, right, the focus is always on the center card. So focus is here, bam, very, very strong. So this is like going to be really powerful. Same if this was here, like that, 3 fires. If there was 3 swords, 3 air, same with water, same with earth, okay? Let's say if there's going to be, it's strong active. So this is what a strong one would look like, or a strong passive. Let's do a strong passive, right? You'd have a water, and an earth. So like, let's say, your middle card, your focus here, right? This one would be very strong, but this one would be strong. The gold labeled would be considered, because why? Because over here, you've got your very strong support, and then this other card over here with the earth, that is what we, friendly to each other. That's going to amplify it. It's not taking away, it's not balancing anything out, it's not canceling. So that makes that strong, right? Same would work if it was 2 earths and a water. For the actives, it'd be 2 fire and an air, or 2 airs and a fire. Always keeping your focus on that center card. Okay. I guess I could go through this and bold each one of the center letters. Maybe I will do that someday. All right, center card active and the flanks are neutral, right? That's going to be one where, let's say fire, fire, and earth. Here's the example, right? The center card is, for the active, which is a fire, is strong, but the flanks are neutral. Okay, so now here you go. This one's going to be strong because it's balanced by that, but fire and earth, these two together, the flanks, those are neutral. So, and this one, like I said, kind of neutral. So the card is still strong, but the flanks are neutral. All right, if this was a water card here, we would say this is strong, but the flanks are weak because fire and water are going to kind of cancel out. So the flanks are canceling out each other's effects when we're reading the meanings, right? And then that will diminish the effect right there. I'm going to jump down here to a little bit more. Let's do a center passive diminished. The flanks are neutral. So like a passive card, earth or air, or earth or water, I'm sorry. We're going to do a water card. We'll have that one be our center, and then I'm going to pick let's see, a fire, and we'll do an air. So this is where the center active card is diminished, and the flanks are neutral, right? Water and air are neutral to each other. And this one is diminished because it's got its exact opposite pulling in there. So that gives you an idea. I would highly recommend taking different cards, laying them out in these patterns of triads, practicing with it, studying with it. Once you kind of get the idea of which elements are strengthening, which ones are weakening, where your focus is, it's just something to play around with. It brings an additional layer of meaning to a tarot reading and gives you a chance to apply those elemental relationships, alchemical relationships that we talked about. And you can look at which cards in your reading or your spread are dignified or ill-dignified. And then, that's a great way too, as you're doing the reading, if these are canceling out or one's making one weak or one's making one stronger, talk about that with your client. You can talk about, okay, so over here, this card, and here's the meaning of this, and here's some things represented by it. This one seems to really be weakening these ones here, so it's having this effect. Or this is really going to be strengthening this. So that's information, more information that you can give them about the cards that are coming up for them in their reading, or if you're doing one for yourself for studying. Again, remember the focus would be on the middle, and then you have these other cards, flanks, influencing it, and also influencing each other, the two flanks. You want to compare them. So, all right, there's Elemental Dignities, and hope that all made sense. If there's any questions, feel free to post them below. All right, blessings.